Hello YouTube friends, my name is Misha Ruby. I am a software engineer based in the Bay Area. I specialize in UX engineering and I love all things stationery. Here is my 2023 lineup. I have 9 notebooks here, which seems overwhelming, but I did a lot of planner hopping throughout the year, so I will actually only pull out a few of them per category that I note down in the description below. If you watched my previous video a few years ago called the 13 notebooks that rule my life, yeah, that's just the kind of person I am, I guess. I like having a lot of notebooks around, and that's because I really like to compartmentalize a notebook for a specific purpose. I'm not as bad as I was before, wherein if a notebook is for that purpose, then that notebook can only ever be for that purpose. I'm a lot more flexible now, wherein I'll planner hop and use this planner for this purpose, and then a few months later change my mind and use it for this other purpose. So it might be a little bit confusing, this video, because you'll see planners coming in and out of different sections, but hopefully it all makes sense. I started the year using these two as a sort of partner planner system. Initially what I was doing was using this for my more minute day planning and time blocking, and then this one is more of a high level deadlines and like really specific meetings that I wanted to make note of. So let's walk through my around the day planner first. This is a daily undated planner by Paperian, which is a Korean stationery brand that I love. The pages look like this. So it's a daily format. Like I said, it's undated, so you can write your own date here when you use it. There is a timeline that goes from 6 a.m. to midnight on the left here. There is these 2 columns here for work/study and personal, and a free space here at the bottom that's gridded. So I was a huge fan of this planner. I used this throughout 2022 because that was one of my busiest years in terms of work and school, so this came really handy for me. The way that I used it looks like this. Actually, this one's more interesting. I used the timeline for time blocking, obviously, and then sometimes I'll even do a check mark if I wanted to really emphasize that there was a specific action or task that happened in that time. And then here I'll write my task lists, and then here sometimes I'll write notes or to-dos for meetings or action items, but most of the time I'll just write a little bit of reflection. So I guess here today I took a nap and I guess that's why I didn't finish my time zone research, because I took a nap instead. But I did finish my time zone research the next day, so good job me. But yeah, so this is how I did my fine day planning, and then this is where I did my high level planning. This is how I used my planner on my weeks. Okay, so I split the left side into 2. The width of it changes. I change it a couple times throughout the year to figure out which one I wanted to dedicate more space to, but I always split it into. So on the left hand side here, I have my specific time appointments or tasks, and then here I have untimed tasks, but tasks that I wanted to do on that specific day. And then here I really didn't know what to do on this side, so I just started doing little reflections, but I quickly stopped doing that because honestly I don't need to do that here as well, because I do it in my Hobonichi A6, which we will get to later. But yeah, so I ended up just using this for simple planning like this. So it was getting to be very bare, and then I kind of just stopped using both of these planners because I got so busy that I didn't even really get time to sit down and use my planners. Very ironic, I know, but that was my reality. So I fell off using my Hobonichi weeks for a a while in January, and then I picked it back up in February. So still using the 2 columns here, but the width is now like even across. And then because I really wanted to use the Hobonichi weeks, because I didn't want to just have spent a lot of money on something purely because it was one piece. I tried to find a layout that I liked. So then in the weeks that I didn't really end up using it, I just wrote I set up some fake planning systems, and then I wrote down my thoughts on the sticky note here. This layout was actually so good that it made me want to carry my weeks around. But it just kind of got cumbersome carrying this because it would open up in my bag and like pages will get folded, and I really didn't like that. So I wanted to get something that can zip. And while I was looking for something like a carrier for my Hobonichi weeks that has a zipper, I came across the Kinbor. I should get my cover for this because that's the main reason why I got this. 1 second. Okay, here is the cover. I'm gonna open it for you. This is a little bit of a spoiler here. Ta-da! This is my everyday carry Hobonichi weeks for 2024, but we'll talk about this one later, so let me pull it out for now. So yeah, this was my goal, was that I wanted to have something that zips, but also have a pen loop so that I can have a pen at all times, and then a place to keep my whatever here. Now I'm formally using it as my wallet, but prior I would just kind of carry just the weeks in here, and I just like shove ephemera here that I wanted to use in my Hobonichi A6 later in the day. But yeah, so I got this. So then my setup looks like this for work. When I was still going into the office, this kind of left the chat basically, so I'll just push it away now. But thank you. And so I was using this as my everyday carry and as my planner, and it was working out really well for me. But then that meant that I had an empty weekly planner, which I didn't really like because I wanted to be the person that uses my notebooks up. So I tried to figure out what I wanted to use this for, and what ended up happening was I decided to use it for my work planner. If you saw my success logging video, you'd probably already seen this spread here. But yeah, so I ended up using this as my work planner, where I have my tasks here, and then I have my success logging here on the left. So I ended up using this for my work, so this will also go with me. But it was kind of silly having this set up, so then I ended up leaving my Hobonichi weeks at home and carrying my weekly Kinbor because I was going to work. And then we went fully remote. So then I stopped carrying anything in this, and I just kind of put it to the side for a while. So then I had 2 weeks or weekly planners that I was using. Yeah, but the problem with these two is that, let me pull up a spread so that you can see. Okay, so actually I forgot to mention about this everyday carry layout that I added a spendings tracker here because I wanted to be more aware of how much I was spending eating out and at hobbies. But yeah, so this spread and this spread. So as you can see here, neither of these are hours, or like based on any hours. It's just kind of floating in space, and I really needed a way to be able to time block again. And at this point, I really kind of abandoned this. It's just like not what I needed anymore. Even though I liked the split, I graduated from grad school in August, so then I didn't really need the study portion anymore. And I know that says work/study, but in my head, this has kind of become my school/work/life planner. And because school ended, I wasn't gravitating towards this anymore. But I'm still gonna keep this around because I do have a tendency to planner hop. So I'm probably going to come back around to this eventually in the future. But yeah, so I needed a way for me to have a daily blocking sort of thing. So that's where this comes in. So this is the Hobonichi Techo cousin, and because this is the avec, so this is the July to December. I'm gonna be honest with you. I started getting really into stationery YouTube, or the planner YouTube community, halfway through this year, and everybody was using a cousin, and I wasn't using a cousin. And I just got so curious about it, and then there was a sale on the Hobonichi store on Amazon, I believe, for the 2023 planners because it was halfway through the year, and I think they were focusing on getting rid of stock instead of selling it at price. So I got the avec at like half price, so I was like, okay, well, it's perfect because it starts in July, so I can just carry half of this and I won't have to deal with the guilt of having like a bunch of empty pages in it before it, because it was a totally separate book. But yeah, so I grabbed this. I didn't really have a plan for it necessarily. I had some ideas of what I wanted to use it for, but also there was this concept of the morning pages that I was getting into as well. I got it on July 17th, and I used it as a morning page. And then I kind of overthought morning pages, so I didn't use it on the 18th. And then I told my therapist about it, and she was like, why are you putting silly rules on your notebook? It's your notebook. So then I was like, okay, screw it. I'm gonna write sideways today. So that's what I did. And then yeah, I ended up using it for morning pages for a few days. And then I switched to a different notebook altogether, which I will show you later. But yeah, so then this became unused until I got the brilliant idea of, wait, why don't I use this for my daily planning? Here you'll see that I use it for my success logging at the top here, and then I also have my to-dos and my stars for my meetings, and then I also do a little bit of reflection here at the bottom. And because this worked out so successfully for me, I ended up freeing up my Kinbor weekly from the task of being my work planner. And then for some reason, I decided to switch the use of these two completely, but I'll get to that in the next section. Now this is where you really see some gnarly planner hopping, but I hope you're able to follow what I'm going to say. So like I said, these two switched purposes because the Hobonichi cousin was working so well for me as a day planner. What ended up happening was I saw the mid-year Techo Kaigi video from Misaka Stationery, and I was super inspired by Ashley and how she was using a week's as a social calendar and keeping track of like restaurants and what she liked about them, that I copied it and started using it as a restaurant but also a cooking log, because I really wanted to get back into cooking this year. So yep, in October I earnestly got into this new spread type where I have the restaurant I went to, and then the food that I cooked that night, and then also a brief reflection or review of the recipe and the restaurant that I went to, if it's my first time going. Usually if it's been something I've already been to, then I just kind of skip it for time's sake. And then up here I write the ink that I used, so for my future reference. But yeah, so this became my restaurant/food log, which meant I needed now a calendar for my personal appointments and errands and things like that. So that's where the Kinbor Weekly comes back as my weekly planner, but now instead of work, it's for life. So the spreads, again, it's the same as what I showed earlier in the Hobonichi Weekly, but now it's in the Kinbor Weekly, and I am actually also using this side earnestly as a groceries list because I carry this as my wallet, which is why I have receipts and cards here now. So coming back full circle, that's what happened to these planners. Now let's talk about these new planners on the table here. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I use this as a place to bookmark because I don't really like using these flimsy strings. But I also use this as a chance to add a month view. This is a memo pad from Life in Pieces. I write down the events that are important just so that I have something to remind me in case I forget. Because I don't fill this out on a nightly basis. I fill it out on a kind of weekly basis when I have time. Okay, so now for these three. This is a Traveler's Notebook horizontal weekly, so it's a very similar layout to the Hobonichi weeks. I'm gonna be honest with you, I got this when I was in Japan. No plans for it. I was inspired by other people who were using the horizontal weekly for their memory keeping, and I tried to do that but failed miserably. I don't even want to show you it, so let's not even go there. Again, I really wanted to get back into cooking, so prior to me putting it here, I actually ended up using this as my meal planner or meal tracker. So, I mean, you can see I kind of quit in August, but when I wasn't, and I was doing it pretty well, I was filling this out on a nightly basis, and I was also keeping track of what's in the fridge just so that things don't spoil on me. But yeah, this is short-lived again because I didn't really like how it doesn't open flat. I hated that so much. And I also didn't like that it was bleeding through for my stamps, as you can see here. And I couldn't use my fountain pens because of that kind of bleeding happening. Which I'm really curious about because I've seen plenty of people use TNs for their fountain pens, and I've not seen them complain about the bleeding. So I don't know, maybe I'm just not using it right, but that was what this was. So I've given up on this after some months of using it. And then that brings us to this goal tracker. This is something that I got in Korea on my trip this March. This is by Paperian, and this is a nifty little notebook just filled with these 30-day goal trackers, and I use this for goal tracking. Ta-da! Yeah, mainly exercise and habits and actions that I want to do or encourage myself to do. And I really like how they have a section here for reward. You can see I changed my mind a few times of what I wanted to my workout reward to be. And then we have this guy. This is a Life in Pieces weekly It's not quite A6. It's slimmer and a bit taller than an A6, but it looks like this. So again, with the horizontal weekly, I got this in Korea for half price, and I didn't really know what to do with it, so it's actually blank for a long time until I joined a book club in October, and that's when I started using this as a reading log. First, I did some redating because I didn't want to waste pages. So here you can see I whited out the January and then I covered with washi and then wrote down my own dates. So my reading log is quite simple. I put the book that I read and the pages, out of how many pages, and then I do a little bit of reflection on the right here. And then when I finish a book, I add a little review memo pad here on the week that I finished it. Again, this is by Life in Pieces. I will try to link it below if you're interested. But then I bought, spoiler alert, the 2024 version of this, which means that I was like, wait, I don't have to redate anymore. I can just go ahead and use the actual right date and weeks for this. It's been working out really well for me. Those are all of my trackers, so let's finally get to my reflection type journals. This is the Hobonichi A6 original. Okay, the One Piece collaboration, woo! I don't think anybody's surprised by that. This cover is by Abigail Crafts on ST, by the way. I've had this for 3 years now. Yeah, 3 years. I usually keep this in a clear cover and cover because I want to protect how beautiful and how pristine this cover is. But I wanted to take it off for this video so that you can see and admire how beautiful that embroidery is. Yeah, it's really nice, cute little Mount Fuji here with some sakura. This is my main memory keeper. I'm not super consistent with it, but I'm also not super pressed about not filling it out. I've been trying to be really kind to myself about things and trying to make sure that when I'm doing something, I'm not doing it out of guilt, I'm doing it out of desire. So yeah, I just kind of let go of my pressures, self-imposed pressures to fill it out every night, and that has actually helped me a lot. So I've stickied some spreads here that I'm willing to show on the internet, so let's go through that. Ta-da! So this one is a really beautiful spread, at least in my opinion. It's one of my most favorite spreads in my Hobonichi A6 for 2023. And you can see here, it's just swatches of a washi tape that I got. Because I'm not really pressuring myself to fill it out every night, this is actually something that I did months after this date or this spread. What I've decided to do is I started to use my Hobonichi as well as a log for washi tape when I buy new ones. So I got these washi tapes on January 16/January 17 because I got them in Japan. So technically it was the 17th, but it was the 16th in the US, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I really like this spread. That's what I've been doing in the empty pages, just kind of making fun collages. And then here's another one. This one is from March. Again, this is a backdated spread, but these are daily like washi tapes that I got when I went to Korea. And then in terms of actually journaling, it looks like this. Usually what I would actually do is just write my reflections in a certain way where I'll put it towards the middle if I know I'm not going to say a lot, or if I don't know how much I'll be saying, I'll start at the top. And then when I have more time or when I'm feeling more creative, I go back to them and then decorate. I would doodle sometimes, but very, very rarely. You'll hear more about my memory keeping in my 2024 plans. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be the One Piece Han. I'm just saying. Okay. And then finally, for my 2023 lineup, we have my morning pages. So this is a Traveler's Notebook refill. This is a blank Midori MD cream paper. So it just looks like this. It's just writing. I'm not really sure what morning pages are supposed to be for. I know that they're supposed to like help declutter your mind so that you can get work done better in your day, but it's kind of being treated, for me at least, as a substitute journal, especially on days when I don't journal in my Hobonichi A6 the night before.